tragedy. Think you can just break my heart and leave me? Well, you better run now, man on the run, playing for fun. Wind me up, leave me undone.
Vocals Nation with Linnea Schazo and Antonia Lucas.
Welcome to Love Vocals Nation, your backstage pass to the inner circle of the music industry, where we not only entertain, but also educate and share our experiences with some of the biggest talents. Today, we are beyond excited to shine the spotlight on a true legend. Known for her incredible voice and lyrics, she has been working with some of the biggest artists in the trance music scene, such as Armin van Buuren, Dash Berlin, Conjure One, Rank One, and being the lead voice behind the legendary trance group Surf, Mitska, and Jaren. Joining us is the remarkable American singer and songwriter Jaren.
Welcome. It's funny for me to hear all of that too, because I think, none of this would have happened had I not met and married Matt Surf, the DJ at the time, because I was living in LA and there was a guy who lived in my building who was from Quebec City, and he invited me and Matt to the same party, and Matt and I hit it off, and we started like working together. And sort of when he was courting me, he had already had a couple of songs signed, and he would say, okay, well, he'd kind of like try to impress me with his music and be like, okay, this is this new song I'm working on, and he'd hit play. And that was back in the days, when the trance tracks were like 11 minutes, and you had like a 3.5 minute intro and outro. And I was just like, and I'm like, okay, when's something gonna happen? And then after like a couple of weeks, I didn't have the heart to tell him, and finally I would just be like, okay, can you just like skip to the good part? Like I need to hear some voices or something, because this doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand.
I
love that. And then we were separated for a summer because I had gotten a record deal in Sweden, and so I moved away for the summer, and I really missed him, and so I was listening to his songs because that was the only way that I could really sort of connect. And finally I woke up one day, I was like, oh my God, I get it now. I think I get it. And then that was born. But I was from a folk background. I had no clue what trance was in 2005.
Your music started like a long time ago. Remember, I was starting out as a singer and songwriter, and it was like back in 2009, I think, for me. And your voice was like all over the radio shows, your song Man on the Run, which we will speak later on about. But it was the biggest tune everywhere. I was on vacation in Malta, and your voice was like on all the radio stations there. I was like, oh my God, this song.
Isn't that crazy?
So yeah, like, thank you so much for leaving the standards and like the mark for the music industry, that the way that you have done. You really are one of the legends in the trance music scene. Like, you're a really powerful woman in the music industry. So
thank you. I appreciate that so much. I have to say that as you know, probably, when you're working in intellectual copyright or you're doing music and stuff, you don't always get that one-on-one connection with the people unless you're doing the live performance thing. And I didn't do the live stuff as much as like some other artist did, but that was always sort of my only way to kind of grasp, like, is what I'm doing working? Or like I would hear like this song was doing really well in a certain community, and it's hard for me to grasp. I don't know. I can't understand that. So when I hear it, it's kind of like, wow, it's still shocking to me a little bit. I'm appreciative of it, but it's still a little shocking.
Yeah. I love how you gave us a little bit of a background of like how it all came together. But I want to dig a bit deeper, because I definitely want to hear like how you got started in music. And you say you come from a different background, not electronic music. So maybe you could tell us tell us your story.
Oh, yes. I'll keep it brief. I mean, I came from a really musical background. When I was like 6 years old and my sister was 4, my dad built a studio, and he decided we were going to record a Christmas album for like my great grandmother. And that was sort of the start of it. And he realized very quickly that my sister and I could sing in harmony at a very young age together. And I taught myself to yodel, and then my sister taught herself to yodel,
Yodel.
and we would yodel in harmony, and we would tour. We would do like, that's how we got started, was basically doing like little, talent shows when we were little girls wearing the cute little country costumes, and we were really into like old country music. And yeah, that's how that got going. So I grew up totally country music background through and through, except for like maybe 4 or 5 artists: Tori Amos, Celine Dion, Mariah Carey when she came out.
Oh, yes.
Everything else though
Please.
was country. So I really had no clue
Wow.
about any of the other
Wow.
industries. Yeah.
I'm just blown away by the fact your dad built a studio so he could do a Christmas album.
Well, my dad is
exceptional.
Oh God, I wish I could show you guys some video. I have some somewhere. My dad is a musician as well. He performs, and he built his own one-man band when I was 6 years old in our garage. And he sits on a kick drum,
Right.
and with his left foot and knee, because he's like operating something with his toes and also with his knee.
Yeah.
Something like this. And then with his right foot, he's operating the bass keys of a keyboard to play bass. So he plays bass with this foot. He plays percussion with this foot and kick. And then he plays guitar while he does that. And sometimes harmonica. He does like a lot of country dance tunes. He plays a lot of country dances. And so very musical family to begin with.
Wow.
That must take a phenomenal amount of coordination.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And time, like I've tried it. I'm like, oh cool, I can play like 3 notes on the bass with my right foot, and I can like kind of kick around on the on the things, but I can't even play a guitar and sing at the same time very well. Like he's special.
That's
What a
amazing.
legend.
That is amazing.
His name is also John Voight.
His name is John Voight.
Yeah, like the actor. And so
Wow.
somewhere on Wikipedia, like I don't know, the Dutch Wikipedia or something, by accident, I don't know how it got there, but somebody confused John Voight with like the actor, but also then maybe thought his brother Chip Taylor, who wrote, was it Wild Thing or something?
Right.
No.
And so on my background on like a Wikipedia there, it says something about Chip Taylor being my dad. And I was like, really? This is cool. Angelina Jolie is like my cousin somehow. How cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be very cool. That would be very cool.
Have a lot of background in the music because of your family, and I'm just curious, like, when did it start to get serious? Because you mentioned suddenly you were in Sweden having a record deal. So yeah, tell us about that. How did that go from just being something fun at home to getting serious?
Well, I didn't do very well in school. I was not a great student. I didn't have a great school experience. I did well in the things I was interested in. Right. And so I originally was sort of slated to go the route of ballerina. And so I had done ballet from the time I was very young, and started dancing at a university level by the time I was 9 years old. So by the time I was 15 years old or 14, I was already in the most advanced class. And I really thought that's what I was going to do with my life after I graduated high school. And then when I experienced a kind of like a lot of bullying, and I had some scoliosis related back things and a lot of psychosomatic things sort of related to all of that. And so my senior year of high school, I was like, I just quit everything that I knew and said, I've been playing songs on the piano and writing songs on the piano, and I just want to get out of my small town. Like, I need to go to the opposite of what this is. And so I was like, Los Angeles, let's do it. And so while all of my schoolmates had already, figured out which sort of university they were going to, I was still like panicking because I had applied to this music school called Musicians Institute in Los Angeles. And I found out on the day I graduated at my graduation party that I got accepted. And so I was like, oh, thank God. And so 10 days later, I packed my car and I drove out.
Good on you.
And I started my life in Los Angeles. But it was a big culture shock. And I didn't last long at the school. I attended the school for 4 weeks, and then I was like, I have a real difficult time learning theory. I understand it in my head. I understand it in my body. I would not be able to explain to you why this works with this and why this doesn't, and the whole like
I'm the same, actually.
yeah, and it's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So
Do you, sorry, can I just jump in?
Oh.
Do you find, because I'm a little bit the same myself, do you find that if you see things, i.e. you watch a thing on a video
Absolutely.
and it's like,
Yes.
you can see it in context,
100%.
yeah, that's a very visual person.
Yes.
And you know, you can be as intelligent as all that, but if that's the way your brain is wired, I mean, that's why I always go for a video. Show me. I don't understand. Show me.
Same.
Yeah.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. Exactly.
This is why I don't
Yeah.
have a driver's license yet.
Oh.
I read a book
video.
and I read it and I'm like, I try to understand it. I'm like, yeah, I think I understand it. And then I forget about it again, like 5
Yeah.
minutes later. But if I see it in a movie or like a movie or video, whatever, I would understand.
Yeah, that's how, I
Yeah.
mean, it's my dad taught me that way, really. Anything that we were doing with him, he was like, let me show you how to do it first. And then this way I would know. And in school, it wasn't that way. And I, oh my God, reading and books and stuff, I couldn't deal with it. So
I yawn. Somebody hands me a
God,
book,
so
I just
bad.
go, really? You really? No.
You know what? I wonder. So I got diagnosed as like ADHD in my late 30s.
Yeah.
And after that happened, some of the things that they explained to me and what I learned later, I was like going back and doing like a review of all my school years, going, oh my God. Oh, that explains why. So now I have 2 kids that are very creative. My daughter's 13, my son is 11. And my son, they're both very similar to how me and my ex sort of grew up in school. Our school experience is kind of similar.
Yeah.
And so my son's struggling more than my daughter, but I know that if there's something we want them to do, like I got to show them. They learn same way that you were saying, Antonia, like by the video or by a physical explanation. If I give them a piece of paper and say, here, do this, it's never going to get done. Somebody does that to me, get good luck.
Yeah. I just gloss over,
Yeah.
Jaren. I gloss over. Okay. Not interested. That's terrible, isn't
Exactly. So yeah, that was that. Oh yeah. So anyways, while I was at Musicians Institute in that 4 weeks, I met 2 teachers who changed my life completely.
Oh, wow.
One was named Mike Campbell. I don't know if he's still there. And the other one is Jamie Lula. Jamie Lula was like my private vocal coach for that thing. And he knew that like I could sing, obviously. And so our coaching sessions were really more like therapy sessions. And what was really cool is at the time I had like a little, those mini tape decks.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. I remember.
Excuse me. For some reason, I don't remember doing this, but I just discovered one of the little mini cassettes, and it was a conversation that he and I were having during one of those sessions.
Oh.
And so he really helped me to kind of like get out of my shell, and sort of unbox myself a little bit.
Right.
And then, but I remember the first class, being from Wyoming, and we had this one class where you had to perform in front of the entire body of students, like 20 students, and it's a constructive criticism class. So you perform, and then everybody who's watching then gives you feedback, and it's egos of singers, especially young ones that are getting to it. And I know this better than you, and I can sing better. And so there's a lot of this kind of
competition.
Yeah. And so I was terrified. I saw how the first couple of sessions went. And I was like, oh my God, I am going to die. This is never going to happen for me. I just got to give this up. And then I decided, fuck it. I'm going to be the first one to go. I'm just going to do this and get it out of the way so that I can go home, because I just can't deal. Like the stress was too much.
Right.
And so I sang this song, and I remember I was so terrified, like that when you're shaking, like the first time you perform in person and you're just, I was like, could barely play. I was playing piano and accompanying myself, and I started kind of crying a little bit. And then at the end, I just like looked down, and I remember I had my hands in my lap, and I looked down, and I couldn't look.
Right.
And then it was quiet. And then I like opened one eye, and I had a standing ovation, and I couldn't believe it. And it was like it hadn't happened in that class before.
Wow.
Wow.
And my teacher, Mike Campbell, said, Jaren, he says, I will follow you anywhere. You keep doing what you're doing. And I just remember it. And that was what I needed to hear in order to continue. So it was really because of
amazing.
him and Jamie Lula that I decided to continue on. Otherwise I would have been out of this industry a long time ago. So yeah. It was amazing.
So he said the right thing at the right time, and it just shifted the gear.
The power of words, the power of
I know. I was going to ask, can I just roll back a tiny bit and pick up on something you said? You mentioned that, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to. You talked about being bullied at school.
Mm-hmm.
How did that impact on your life?
That was really in dance lessons. I was sort of an awkward teenager to begin with, but I remember there were couple instances where some of the ballerinas that were in the advanced session didn't want me there. And so they would make snide comments. And I was kind of like, let it roll past me. I didn't think about it. It was as an adult when I went back and looked, and I was like, why wasn't I more angry about that? And I think I was just a way of coping, kind of.
Right.
But I remember there were girls that would take my point shoes and they would go into the theater seats and take the point shoes in the seats and crush the box, which is like the part that holds your foot inside of your point shoe.
Gosh.
And then you'd go and you'd stand on point and you could roll your foot over and like break your foot if you're not careful. And and again, I didn't understand why, and I didn't internalize it then. I just thought, oh, that's so strange. And now as an adult, I'm like, that's fucked up. Oh my God, if somebody does that to my kid, I'm gonna, I get really delayed anger.
Yeah, no,
delayed
totally.
anger.
Yeah, I just it astonishes me, how kids sometimes feel, that they need to do that. They need to really like put the blockers on somebody. And usually, as you know, it's because they've got jealousy going on to some degree.
I'm not really sure what inspired them to do that, because at the time I remember really thinking, oh, these girls are my friends. Like, because I never had groups of friends. I always ever had just like, the neighbor girls across the street, or I had one friend throughout high school, or one friend for junior high or whatever. I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert with sort of extroverted tendencies. I can go out and do the thing, but I need a lot of personal time, alone time, to sort of figure out the world and sort out my feelings about everything. They're just constant input. But so to be a part of a group where there were more girls was kind of my first new experience, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then when that happened, I was like, wait a minute, but aren't we friends? Like, why would they do that? Oh, they probably just thought it was somebody else's shoes. At the time, I was really didn't think about it much.
Right.
So I'll jump onto something. What's your preference out of all of the genres of music that you've ever done? Which is your preference?
That's okay. So the thing is, I like so many different kinds of EDM, and this was always a problem in my career. I can't tell you how many executives, really famous ones, would try to advise me and say some not super nice things to me about why couldn't I just stick to trance? You know what I mean? I was like, but you guys, there's like a world to explore.
Of course there is. Absolutely.
So I went through my trance phase, and then there was a phase where I was working with some house producers. I was like, oh man, I'm like really feeling this. Of course, now I can't remember like all of the different types of EDM, but I remember okay, in your career, like you work with a lot of producers, and they're just every once in a while you meet one that you're like, I'm sure we worked together in like a past life or something.
Yeah.
And for me, that producer, one of those producers, is Andy Dogood. And every time he would send me something, it wouldn't have like the music. It would just be like the piano, and it wouldn't have like all the beat and stuff. So it gave me a lot of freedom to be creative. And so I gear towards that. And then I discovered, and working with Reese Fulber from Conjure One, oh my God, Chill Out was like, oh, that was
so beautiful.
I love working on Chill Out with him. It's great. And then I just sort of went through phases. It got tough for a while because a lot of people were telling me, like, you can't confuse your audience. Like, don't put your name on house stuff. So I came up with Fenya, was in one of my old
I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah. And so that was sort of a way. And then but then also the demand for trance was sort of so high for a period, and I was like, Christ, you guys, like my fucking voice is everywhere. I'm sick of hearing me. Like, I don't. So I wanted to find other people that could sing the stuff. So then
totally. I really feel you here, because that is something I came across, is you get stuck in a genre for such a long time, a section of a genre for such a long time.
Right.
And they're going, yeah, don't change. Yeah, that's all right for you, because you know that's how you're monetizing.
Right.
You're monetizing me. But then they forget about your creative soul, your creative spirit, which needs to grow and express.
Exactly.
So I hear you and I feel you on that.
Yeah. Heaven forbid we evolve, and like change or whatever. I mean, but like, I like coming back to some phases of music. But I mean, there was a time for years after Man on the Run that I was getting requests from producers. They'd send like, okay, we want you to write, this is a sort of the track. But before you hear it, this is the inspiration sort of for the track. These are the sounds we like. And, 7 times out of 10, Man on the Run would be listed there. And then you listen to the instrumental and you would hear like sort of a Dash Berlin copy sound. And I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Like, this is like, I can't do this. This was like a one-time thing. Like, that's too much pressure for me to try to write like a follow-up to Man on the Run. Like, I gave it my all, been there, did that. The whole thing.
Well, you have been written many trance classics, like like Man on the Run is not the only one that stood out. Like, I would say like all of the trance tracks that you have touched with your voice is just incredible. So
they are, and one of my favorites is Unforgivable.
Oh yes, I love that.
It's a beautiful song, beautiful vocal, and the production's amazing. And for once, because I've been listening to a few of your tracks, and no disrespect to the producers out there who did it, but at times the mix seemed to kind of not just be as warm as your voice. It didn't quite fit around or with you as much as Unforgivable did. Everything just seemed to just be beautiful. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, thank you. But you know what though, this actually, what you're saying, like, okay, this is gonna make sense in 30 seconds. Okay, I promise.
Okay.
I just have this idea. I have to put it out there.
Okay.
One of the things that I've learned as I've gotten older too is trying to find, like, there are some songs I listen to that I'm like, my voice is not suited for that. I didn't know that when I was younger. It's a bit like, what do they call it? Color. What is your color? When they put like what is your season or your color palette, and they put
right. Yeah.
color things, and they're like, are you a warm spring or a cool winter? Or, you know what I mean? And I feel like production is very much that way too. And like, probably if I was advising singers now, I would say, listen to the production, but like figure out where your voice fits within that, because I naturally have a very angsty sounding voice, and I can do the Christina Aguilera thing. I can do the pop thing. And I did that on House for a little bit, but it's very specific. It's not as broad for me as like some trance could be. So I think that's important for anybody like coming up, I would say.
Yeah.
So as the lead voice behind the iconic trance group, Sarf, Matiska and Jaren, what inspired the formation of the group? And how was the dynamic between you and the fellow members over the years?
So I joined, Surf, Matiska, and Jaren as a result of Matt Surf working with Sean Matiska, and they worked together. They were partners, like production partners for years, remotely, because we lived in LA, Sean lived in Colorado. And we had started working on songs. We had like a few singles. And we couldn't find a name. We couldn't agree on anything. Like, we tried really hard to agree on like a shorter name for us, but we were also had solo projects going on that were quite different from what we were doing. So we were like, oh, I guess we'll just stick with Surf, Matiska, and Jaren. And it was good. It's really difficult. Like, in retrospect, thinking back about everything, I think, and I can't speak for Sean, but I'm guessing that for Sean, he probably felt like the third wheel sometimes, because when we'd have to make a decision on something, it was always kind of like 2-on-1, and like, who's it going to be? Sometimes it would be me and Sean against Matt. That was very real. But I think for Sean, knowing that his partners were a married couple, that like, how do you kind of, so we had some sort of, for for the most part, we got along great. And I think melodically, musically, it was a great match. I mean, some of my favorite songs that I've ever worked on have been with Matt and Sean. But you know, eventually we went our separate ways, but we're in touch once in a while, and everybody's doing well. Yeah.
That's good.
I love that you're keeping in touch. I think it's so sad because so many great production teams over the years, they do start to lose touch with each other. And that's I'm glad that you keep in touch.
Thanks.
I was actually watching a documentary of ABBA's life yesterday.
Oh
actually.
boy.
And they were also, you know, married and all that, but they still you know, managed to keep, you know, the group alive. And you know, maybe you don't always have to have the group alive, but at least like have the respect and the love and like the cherished memories that you have together. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, that's crazy group, man. I love all the other stuff. I'm currently teaching it's an after school group for elementary students. And my 4th and 6th graders are singing Mamma Mia.
Oh,
hugely excited about Mamma Mia. It was their choice too. They were like, we want to sing Mamma Mia. And I was like, okay, let's talk about ABBA.
So electronic music's not the only thing you've created. You've also starred on the stage in a production called Oh Canada, What a Feeling. And that was a homage to Joni Mitchell. Is that the case?
It was a sort of a collection. It was paying homage to Canadian singers, like whoever the great Canadian artists basically of our time, from I think like the 50s up through like the 1980s, basically, or the 1990s, no 80s, I would say. And that was such a fun thing because you get to audition, and it was right at the time, right after Matt and I separated, and so I didn't know what I was going to be doing with my life. Like I live in a place where in order for me to work, I would have to speak French fluently, and I speak French, but not fluently enough to work at that time.
Wow.
And so I was sort of relying on working in the arts in English in some capacity to sort of make a living. And that opportunity came up, and it went great. A major life-changing experience for me. So I paid homage to Celine Dion, Joni Mitchell, and then Sylvia Tyson, who is also
nice.
That was really fun.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And it was cool because one of the guys that was backstage with me actually had toured with Celine Dion. And so we spoke a lot about that. And at that time, I decided I had wanted to start working on a book about motherhood in the music industry. And because playing that character, playing Celine and Joni Mitchell, who also had a kid, but that's a different story, really got me thinking, like, how do moms do this in the entertainment industry? How do they? It just seems like all too much. Like I had to leave my kids for a month, and I felt like the worst human in the world. How could I abandon my children to go sing songs on a stage for other people? You know, like what kind of a mom am I? And I realized it's so much more complicated than that. And actually, I wanted to, like, I don't know, do any of you guys have kiddos?
Yes, and I was just going to share with you. When I had my very first major record deal, I had 3 children, and I told this story actually when we were speaking to Amanda Wilson. But Telstar, I was signed to Telstar, and Telstar, I couldn't tell them I had children because I looked a lot younger than my years. Age was a big deal. I was 31 at the time, but I looked about, I don't know, 21, and I couldn't tell them. And so anytime I had to do any gigs or recording or anything to do, which was a lot of stuff, I had to find babysitters. It was such a stress out. I felt I was living this really horrible life, you know, abandoning my children and the existence of my children to other people. Obviously, in background, I was mom. But yeah, so I really understand what you're saying. And eventually, it got too much, and I just had to tell them, and they were like.
Yeah, how did they? What happened? Did you like? What happened after that?
Well, they were really shocked. They seemed to they seemed to kind of support me. It seemed like they were supporting me, but I got dropped.
Right.
This was a wee bit afterwards, but I did get dropped. But I think it was because they had put an enormous amount of money, invested a lot of money into me, and I think they really were hoping for a more longevity out of that investment. And then suddenly there was 3 kids on the.
Oh my God. I just wrote about this. I wrote an article about like in response to the Lily Allen's conversation a few weeks ago, you know, about how she said her children like ruined her career or like prevented her from having a bigger career, and people were up in arms about it. And I referenced the book thing that I was working on. And one of the celebrity families that I was working with at the time, because I was trying to explain, like, it's so complicated, you guys. Like, for anybody who is a fan of music, it is so complicated when the female star decides to have kids. Society. Anyways, that's a whole different episode.
Do you think it's changed and anything?
No,
you know,
not at all.
Don't, not at all. Wow.
Well, I don't know. I think in some niche markets, it's starting to change. And this is actually one of the reasons I have a love-hate relationship with the music industry as a whole. And one of the reasons I loved EDM maybe more so, and had more respect for EDM than other parts of like mainstream music industry, was because for a while I used to feel like there was less emphasis on what was the life of the singer? What did she look like? You know, how many kids did she have? Da, da, da.
Right.
You know, it was really more about what's the sound? How does this make you feel? You know?
Yeah.
And I think there's like this spectrum. The closer you get to mainstream, the more that stuff really, really matters. And then you see this curve going from, you know, like the emphasis on the feeling and the movement of the music to more and more, okay, how does this person look? Are they pretty enough? Are they need to be a triple threat at this point in order for us to invest in them. They have to be able to move. They have to look like they can dance nicely, even if they're not dancers. They have to look hot. They definitely have to not have kids, and it's going to help if they're single. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So they want an entire package of what they perceive to be the right thing to be a product for their product. And that's, I find that really sad.
It's a really off-putting reality, I think. And a lot of people, I mean, most of the arguments I get into with people about this are like, you're just jealous because you're past your prime, you know? And I'm like, yeah, that's probably, there's a part of me that is jealous about that. Okay, if we're going to be honest, let's be honest. But the other thing is, like, just because those kind of things worked in the past doesn't mean that we need to perpetuate those ideals now. And also, how much more like music and like really moving pieces of music are we missing out on, because the voices that are producing those and the voices capable of making those songs are the ones that are not being encouraged, are the ones that are told you don't really matter because you don't have sex appeal. Bye.
Amen.
You know, that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly dehumanizing at times. That's how I feel about it. And I just wish that and I know this is a little bit of a kind of Disney brain moment, but I really wish they would be much more appreciative of the talent rather than just. And then you think about someone like Susan Boyle. Remember Susan Boyle?
Yeah.
So
Incredible.
I mean, she didn't fit the mold.
No.
But I did notice that as she was a little bit further into this brand new career, they were doing her up, and you know,
they Hollywoodize anyone. That's the thing, though. The only reason she made it, though, was because of the court of public opinion, right? Like, the public, we're so busy living our own lives. We don't give a shit. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have time to figure out what your life is doing and what you're doing. I got kids to raise, I got mouths to feed, I got all these things going on. If the song touches me, yeah, I want to listen to it, and I'm going to listen to it, right? I don't give a shit what your life is. No offense. Like, keep doing what you're doing. Great. But like, if Susan Boyle had gone into any label and been like, listen, guys, I'm a singer. they would have showed her the front door.
Yeah.
Yes,
100%.
they would have. 100%.
But that's also maybe one of the positive sides of these talent show competitions is that they're looking for what shocks. They're looking for the people that are really unassuming that suddenly come out and have this insane voice that they're just like, oh my, they're looking for that experience.
Yeah.
And the only way they can get that experience is sort of, I think, in that type of venue. So I guess that's one of the good things about it. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know a couple. I don't have kids myself, but not yet. But I have some friends
There's
that
time.
do. Like,
Yeah, there's time.
let's talk about like Nifra, for example. She's a big DJ in the music industry at the moment. She has a child, and we had a little talk about how she's dealing with everything now, because it is it's a big task to be a mom, and it's a fantastic task, and she's just like, well, it's my job. It's my full-time job. So I have to do my job to be able to feed my child.
Yeah.
And I think Nervo also they have kids, and they're bring them with them as much as possible. But not everybody is a full-time musician, so you have to then maybe make a choice between having a full-time job that can pay for your bills, so your child can get some food, and then maybe you have to then not prioritize, the singer and songwriting journey that you were on. But I think, I don't know, it's difficult, if I ever, or when I come to that position, I will try to squeeze in as much time to the studio when I can. But it's a different story when you're into it.
I hid both my pregnancies as long as I could. I lost a tour because of it. I lost all kinds of work. And while I was pregnant, I was working harder than I was when I wasn't pregnant, because I knew the phone was going to stop ringing at some point, because the people that I had been surrounded by in the industry were all saying the same thing. So-and-so, she's like, the label doesn't really want to work with her because she had kids. So she chose her priorities, and it's like, well, I suck as a mom if I cannot be creative. If you tell me I have to only be mom and I cannot be express my artistic self, I am the worst mom on the planet. Okay. Like, I need that to fuel this, and vice versa. I need my kids to fuel my art now. Like, it's just, but it takes time. And that it's, and to everybody that's like, well, you can have it all. No, you fucking can't.
No.
Maybe you can, but not at the same time.
Yeah. I just have
need a babysitter.
Please, Antonia, I want to hear.
I was just thinking, that's of course if you can make enough money off the music industry to feed your kids.
Yeah.
I had to kind of throw that one in.
Absolutely. I took my daughter with us. We got a show. We were hired, I think, by like the Heineken family to do a big a launch in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. My daughter was 6 months old. So I was like, okay, we don't want to miss out on this. It's 11 days of touring. But who's going to take care of my 6-month-old for 11 days while I'm breastfeeding? She's got to come with us. But then that means we're going to have to pay the flight, the extra however many thousands of dollars, to have someone come with us and babysit and do the whole thing. So we didn't want to miss out. But like, then it's like, me personally, I probably just broke even. I probably didn't make any money off that. Like, maybe Matt and Sean did, but like, me personally, I think I probably just broke even, because I don't even remember now because it was a while ago, but my dad ended up joining us, and I was so lucky that my dad got to come, and so he would take care of Lilu during the day and then
lovely.
or during the night, and during the day we'd go and we'd do things, and that was so magical. But it is not the reality, and it's not realistic for people to think that when I have a kid, I'm going to be able to just afford to do these things. It's expensive. It's difficult.
Yeah.
But I bet your dad had the best time ever.
Oh, we had the best time ever. That was one of my absolute favorite trips. It was so much fun. Oh, but can I say something? It's a little TMI, but it's funny. It's a mom fail story.
Okay.
Because it was so hot and humid there, my daughter decided she didn't want to nurse anymore. And I was not prepared to stop nursing in a foreign country where there are no like breast pumps or any of this kind of stuff. So I had big problems while I was there because suddenly my clothes were not fitting. My show
No,
clothes were
my
not
God.
fitting.
Oh, no.
And I was in so much pain. And like, I remember Matt and I walked into like this little clothing store, and I was like a giant, you know, compared to any of the little locals that were living there. And we didn't speak the language, obviously. And so we were trying to show using our hands that there was a problem. And like, I needed some bigger clothes. And like, how do you show that? And so Matt points to me and he's like, just like makes this like big gesture about like how my boobs just got like and everybody was like, we all started laughing, but I was like laughing and also like,
Oh my God.
it was awful.
That was a Bridget Jones moment.
Oh,
Yeah, I love it.
So much. Yeah. And I was like, this is going to be funny in 10 years. Not right now, but it'll be funny in 10 years.
Yeah.
Did they understand in the end?
Oh yeah, they understood, but they were like, we don't have anything that size.
No,
Sorry.
bummer.
And so I don't even know.
You
I don't remember
suffered.
I suffered a lot.
Oh.
It was horrible.
Oh my God. It's called suffering for your art.
Suffering for my art.
So you're a Billboard recording artist, songwriter, actor, author, environmental activist, and an incredible mum, clearly.
Oh,
and you've also started something that called Singing with Jaren.
yes. Yeah. Sing with Jaren.
I loved it. I was listening to it. I was like, my God,
Thank
that
you.
voice. Now, what a great singing teacher. So I was really impressed.
Oh yeah.
So are you doing courses, running courses?
So I teach 2 courses. One of them is just called Singing by Ear. And the website is called Sing with Jaren. Anyway, so it's Singing by Ear, and it's, I think, 14 modules long. But this is really it's everything that I wanted to learn when I got started singing.
Right.
But that I wish somebody would have taught me, knowing that I was going to suck at theory.
Right.
And so there's no theory in it. There's no notes. I'm not saying this is C, D, E, F or do, re, mi, none of that.
Right.
It's really, I'm trying to help people figure out what to listen for and how to do it. I mean, even as far as matching the pitch of your electrical appliances in your house, which sounds hilarious, but it works. Like when my coffee machine is going, when my coffee machine's going in the morning, I naturally like to match it because I like to get, when you get that resonance and you feel the resonance. So I do that every morning. And then my coffee's ready, or the hair dryer or whatever.
This is a commercial, Jaren.
It's quite fun. And let's see, what are the other ones? Oh yeah, and then like obviously giving some people, like sort of, there's always like the basics of singing, but the one thing that I really wanted to teach, and the only thing that I could think of that's like different from how I learn than from anything that I've ever learned in the past, is that especially when it came to learning because I've always been inspired by other singers, how other singers perform. Let's say, for instance, when I wanted to learn Celine Dion, okay,
right.
That I would listen first for 3 things. So I break it up into parts. So the first thing I'm listening for are melody, volume, and vibrato. And then I have a system for writing that down so that I can read how she sings that. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to other things like pronunciation. Everything is slipping my mind. Anyways, there's a whole way to listen to it and to sort of mark it down for the people that are visual, so that it worked really well. Actually, I did a demonstration. I was listening to Berlin. What's the song? Take My Breath Away. And because there are not so many lines, and when you just print out the lyrics, and then I write everything by different colors so that I can read what's happening, where is the melody going, where is she holding out the vibrato, where is the volume on this part of the phrase or this part of the phrase. So I think what it does for me is it just helps me to listen to the world a little bit differently. And you just do it a few times, and then pretty soon it sort of, I think it becomes kind of automatic. So when you're wanting to learn a song quickly for something, I like to use that hand brain connection to write down sort of those things, and it helps me to process the song more quickly.
Wow.
That's so interesting. I do the same thing. I've always got to make little notes as the lyrics go along. And maybe, I don't know, I sometimes wonder if I've got ADHD. I'm not sure. I've never certainly been diagnosed with it.
I also
but
wonder sometimes, like sometimes when
we're
tears
all ADHD people.
Well, you know what? I find that most of the people that I end up hanging out with are sort of on like that spectrum, you know, and we tend to be really creative and goofy. So
yeah,
if you do have it, you're in good company.
Colorful. We're very colorful.
Exactly.
I love it. Linnea, over to you, my dear.
Yeah, you know, you're doing these courses, these videos. Tell us, like, where can people go and find you?
Sure. So there's a second course in there too. It's like a follow-up, and it's for vocal licks, and it's for teaching people how to sing vocal licks, because that was also another thing that I wanted to learn. And so I sort of break that down visually as well. You guys probably do that to some extent on your stuff as well. So I have those two courses right now. It's on Sing with Jaren. Right now, for you guys, there's a coupon code for 50% off for so the code is Love Vocals. And so for anybody wants, so I think it comes with the first course comes with like a 43-page something handbook that I also wrote to go with it. It's like a nice little thing, so you can get it digitally or you can print it. And same thing with the second course as well. There's like a little handbook thing that you can print out with it. The first one also comes with a calendar, so it's just sort of what I would do in a day if I were going through to learn music again. And it's not long. Like I'm a real big advocate for breaking things up and keeping things as interesting as possible. So I try to do like 10 minutes a day, where then it's like you can have my full attention for 10 minutes. That's about all I can give you. And and then it's fun. And then I'm going to look forward to it the next day.
Very
so that was my thinking behind it.
Love it.
I
hope, you know, it's a definitely good chance for any singer out there who is, you know, maybe trying to find ways to warm up your voice or just get into the music industry. Like you have Jaren here, who's a legend, like big legend in the music industry, and who better not to learn from than from Jaren. So definitely go into Sing with Jaren and get that coupon.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also what I'm hearing in the way that you're teaching is very much in line with that visual aspect that you have personally. And my hunch is, and I'm a psychotherapist by trade as well as doing vocals, but is quite simply because I work with creators.
Okay.
And I think this is actually an aspect of the creative brain. So I think not throwing loads of, you know, letters out and you know, and musical notes and whatever is a much more conducive way for the creative brain to take stuff in. So that's awesome.
Awesome.
Linnea and I are about to launch a big music industry platform, and it's called Love Vocals. It's all focused on keeping vocalists safe, teaching, education, collaboration, teaching them how to collaborate healthily, sustainably, and that's our whole thing. And our mission is to change standards for vocalists and songwriters within the
things
industry.
like, you know, this is not going to be in the.
No, I think it should be actually, because I want to ask you guys some questions about this as well. Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys had reached out to me like 10 years ago or something. And this is something that I would like to touch on too, because I do want to get into this and I want to talk about. I like having the difficult conversations, and that's something that I think really needs to be happening here. I can't tell you how many emails and messages I got from people when I published my article, including from Seb from Dash Berlin. He called me and we had a couple of phone calls. Yeah, and I would like to think that they were productive. Like I told him I'm committed to continuing the conversations with him about all of this stuff, because he was like, I had no idea. And I was like, okay, well, somebody knew something. And he was like, I swear to God, like I turned in the notes and everything, and it had you guys' name in the title. I don't know what happened. I don't know where the mistake was made. And we ended up, we had really good conversations about it. And really tough conversations. Obviously, he has a reputation to protect, and I am in a position where, because I don't work in the music industry actively as much anymore, I feel like I don't have as much to lose. And the reason that I published that article was in part of my own healing journey as well, because that experience, among other ones, but that one was a catalyst experience, I would say, really contributed to some of the reasons why I left the industry and why I have been frustrated with the industry. And when you guys had approached me, I think 10 years ago, and asked me if I would be a part of that, my instinct at the time, and you have to understand too, a lot of growth has happened since then, but my mindset at that time was that I needed to just shut up and do the work and not complain about anything. And also, I was surrounded by men. I'm like the only woman doing what I was doing in my circle.
Right.
And when you hear enough of the comments, like when you start hearing enough about, all these women do is complain, not you guys, I'm just saying in general, when you hear
no, we hear
it. Say it about us as well. Don't worry about it.
Then at some point I remember thinking, my job is to just shut up and do the work, because right now I didn't know at the time, but I had like an impending divorce, and I had, impending total life changes, and all of these things to worry about. And I mean, because I wasn't touring anymore, and that's where the money was really in the live things, I wasn't making ends meet doing music, and I was frustrated and all those things. And so I thought, if I rock the boat now, I'm going to lose everything. And I lost everything anyways, but that's one of the things now that I think I do have a little bit of regret about. Like, I wish that at the time I had the backbone to stand up and really point out the things that were annoying and like unfair. And I did. I would talk to my manager about it all the time, and my immediate circle, like, this is fucked up. Like, why are things happening this way? Anyways, all this to say, like, I don't know how things would have changed, but I'm a little annoyed with myself that it's taken me this long to kind of get to the point where I'm like, and maybe that was just my journey, is like, I needed to get to the point where I was like,
it was your journey. I
don't have anything to lose.
100%. 100%. Jaren, honestly, don't sweat it for a moment. I'll tell you, there was a bunch of us step forward, and we made a little bit of traction. Okay, a little bit of traction.
Now we're talking about the VSA.
The VSA at this point. Thank you, Linnea. Yes. But there was such an opposition, and I don't mind saying this out loud, but I was working with some of the best producers out there at the time, who were enormously what seemed good friends who were talking all the time. And as soon as I stepped up and I started pushing this, and I was being very boundaried about everything, I played it by the book, because they weren't. And a laundry list of them, and they all just shut me down.
Yeah.
And so you didn't do the wrong thing. You did the right thing for you in your career. I was at a point where I just said, excuse my French, fuck you all. I'm so done. And I was so burned by the whole thing. And this is not my story. I'm just telling a little snippy. But I had to take 10 years off.
Okay, how did you get back into it? That's my question.
I'm not back in yet. I'm literally.
I'm pushing her.
I stopped singing. I have actually not sung.
I feel you. I stopped. I couldn't listen to music for well over a year. 100%. I could listen to talk radio. I couldn't do everything. Anytime somebody would turn on the radio, I would get violently rageful.
Me too. Yeah. Me too. And my kids who are older, they turn around. They said to me, "Oh, for God's sake, Mom, you just like walk around in silence. And every time they get annoyed with me. Every time we turn the music on, you turn it off." I said, "I don't, but you're supposed to love music." I said,
Not when you've had the life experience that
Trauma.
you've had.
It's
But
called
exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I think
anyway,
there's
I'm just
a lot of artists that are doing what you have been doing, Jaren. I know a lot of big names in the industry that choose to be silent because sometimes they say that silence is louder than saying something. But I
I
think
call
we all have
bullshit
been
on that.
silent for
Yeah.
a really, really long time, and
Sil-
we got this group VSA together, which was like we are 300 people in the VSA at the moment,
Wow.
singers and songwriters that wanted to make a change because we realized, hey, we're not alone. Somebody's playing with us,
Yeah.
and this is
they're
not
still
okay.
playing with us.
Yeah.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to also just add into that, the end of that particular little part that I shared there was today, now, 2024. This is not a marketing blurb. Genuinely, this, it feels, and I feel it in my gut.
Change.
People are ready
Yep.
to speak. People are ready to tell their truth.
Yeah.
And because I'll tell you what has changed. One, we don't need record labels anymore.
No, exactly.
What we need is the fans, because they're the ones.
We need the court of the public. If they like it, they're the ones deciding.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, guys, you're still taking 70%. A lot of these terrible labels, all labels who take 70% folks out there for nowadays for records, don't do the deal. That's all I'm saying. I'm telling you the truth here. They're taking 70%. They don't pay for the studios anymore. They hardly pay for anything.
Yeah.
Not like
let alone there. I used to get advances before, and like I think now I would still get a really small advance just to whatever. But it's nothing. Like the industry itself, I know has changed so much, and this annoys me so much. But okay, and speaking with some very high up there producers and stuff as well, even recently as well. Being mansplained about how the industry works. And it's like, are you like, you think I haven't been fucking in this? Like, you think that I don't know, like my experience. And so Sean Matiska brought up a really good point, because I was talking to him in an email the other day, and we were discussing about the roles of the veteran artists versus the ones that are up and coming or don't have their name up. It is not the job of the up and coming artist to have done all of the research to figure out how the fuck the industry works when they don't have the experience or anything, to make sure they don't get screwed by the veteran artists out there or the labels or whatever. They cannot do that. And yet when I talk to producers, they're like, yeah, but we all have to pay our dues. And I'm like, no, we fucking don't. Like, that's like, get over that.
Yes.
That happened back then. Let's not perpetuate that. If you want to make a real change, and this is where dance music, EDM has been has been ahead of its time in many ways for a long time, right? Because like, I remember living in LA, and like, I'd hear a song come out, and then, like 10 years later, somebody in rap would be like sampling it, or it would be be sampled in like a pop song 15 years later or whatever. So in ways, they're sort of like the leaders. They're out on the leading edge in some ways, and I'm like, now is your chance, guys. Like, you were out on the leading edge when it came to not caring what your artist looked like or what their family life, like you were really concentrated just on their voice and the songs and how they made you feel. Let's focus on that, because that's what people are connecting to. That's the authenticity, that we want to connect to.
Right.
And this whole thing about looking a certain way, having to like act a certain way, making sure that there's another conversation going on at the same time. One of the things that one of the veterans told me was, we were talking about, doing paid vocals and stuff. And he said, well, how do you feel about work for hires? And I said, fuck work for hires. And I said, unless, like, I understand if you were like brand new and you're working also with like a brand new producer, I mean, maybe there's some room for that some way if you don't think the song's going to go anywhere, but you can never really predict that. I'm like,
No,
much,
you
you
can't.
know, and then, and he's like, okay, but what if they agree to do it? And I was like, why would they agree to do that? The only reason they would agree to do that is if they don't have the knowledge. And if somebody goes to them and says, you know, anybody else, and I've heard this, anybody else would be so lucky to have their voice on this song.
Oh, fuck that. I tell you.
It makes me crazy.
Okay. This is another point.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Another point is this. Why? And we're actually going to do a True Talk, and I'd love you to come on True Talk with some other artists and talk about this topic.
Oh, amazing.
Why does the vocalist always end up the last name in the credits?
Right.
Why?
Well, that's like my whole thing with the featuring. I had to explain that too. Like, I don't like the term featuring because especially when I'm getting lectured to by somebody about how this is a collaboration. So I'm like, if it's a fucking collaboration, just put with. And like, also, why does your name have to be first?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And if the vocalist is writing the song as well, so you've got 50% of that song.
How is that a featuring?
How is that? And featuring back.
I'm not just walking on doing a cameo appearance.
Yeah. Featuring back in the day was only put in if you were a session singer who was getting brought in to get paid to actually sing on a track. That was a featured artist back in the day.
Yeah.
But it got picked up by the EDM as that's what you do with vocalists. And as a result of this way of thinking, it's so disrespectful that we end up, in my opinion, at the bottom of the food chain.
Yep.
And I think it's appalling because without us, what are the fans singing?
I was asked about a certain song. If sort of what some of the other producers I was working with, what their actual contribution to the song was, because they thought that well, the way I write a top line is by sitting at a piano and playing something. I was like, no. I mean, for some things, maybe once in a while, but that was never the case before. The case before was that someone would send me the instrumental and I would write to it and we would work together and mesh the song together, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that got added to some production and stuff like that. And then certain people's names were left off of the project. I think maybe in part because of that assumption. I don't know. You know which song I'm talking about. Anyways. So that led to talking about featuring and stuff. And then we were talking about, okay, well, what percentage of the song, you know, like the song wouldn't have gone anywhere had it not been for this part of the production. And I'm like, okay, the song would have not gone anywhere had my vocals not been on that, had I not written to that other production. If I had not written to that other production, that song wouldn't have gone there anyway. So if we want to talk about like who's contributing what, where, when, why, how, let's look at the whole picture.
Yeah. Because that's kind of choosing where one wants to put value. And it's to me, it has to be equal. I don't care how big a name it is, how new an artist it is. If you fuse the two together and make a hit song, that's 50-50.
Yeah, and also, how does that not benefit everybody if you have the the artist there properly credited? Because how many times have you seen, and we've seen that's happened more and more recently, where an artist doesn't do so much, and then they work with a young upcoming artist on something, and all of a sudden their career blows back up again.
Right.
Yep. Very, very true.
And that's also happened, you know, even using more veteran vocalists tracks, you know, as well.
There's so many topics here.
I know. I'm actually loving this.
We're gonna have to do like
loving this
multiple parts.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna turn the wheel a little bit back. Because we have listeners and some might be confused, like what are we talking about? So you know, I just want to touch back on that. So if there's a new listener, they know what we're talking about. Well, first of all, we're talking about how to be a singer and songwriter in the music industry and how that's always, you know, how that works. And it's not very beneficial at the moment. Right. The other thing is we're talking about, you know, your article that you mentioned or you wrote First of all, I just want to say how fucking brave you are for
No, serious.
writing that.
Our power to you for that.
Yeah,
you.
that
That's
is,
gutsy.
Thank
you
you.
know,
I had a
it's
mental breakdown after that, though, I will say.
I can
had
imagine.
the weekend after that, because I got flooded with so many emails and messages from people saying similar things. Like, I've had this type of experience with X producer. This happened to this producer. This happened to me here.
Right.
I know somebody that this has happened to, and they're afraid to talk about it. Thank you so much, like, for voicing this.
Yeah.
And I knew it was I knew this thing happens. And I'm also not trying to totally throw, like, and I was trying to reassure Seb of this. I'm not trying to throw Dash Berlin under the bus entirely for this, but there is a responsibility there, especially if you view that the
100%.
song as 50-50. Then if you're getting asked to promote something that you share with somebody else, at some point you have to ask, like, make sure, like, what, are they a part of this, in terms of the promotion or whatever? And that never happened. There are some other factors in this, though, and it's something that he and I talked about, and it's something that I talk about a lot in my other articles about the machine that surrounds any sort of artist. When you are an artist of a certain size, and this is something that they've experienced, and we talked about that as well, you might have a manager, agent, depending on how big you are, publicist, you might have 5-10 people that have to help you run your life,
right,
on a daily basis. And so sometimes you're at the mercy of what they're doing in order to try to keep you rolling and keep your business rolling. And so when I was sort of asking him about the promotional side of things, I said, listen, for example, A State of Trance 1000, that song was in the top 10. None of us were asked if we wanted to say anything about the fact that song was in a top 10. And it is arguably, it's one of the top vocal trance tracks. I have never once been asked to talk about it. And he said, well, why don't you ask? Why don't you insist on talking about it? I said, how was I supposed to know it was supposed to be in the top 10? I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
And so, and he was like, okay, no, I hear you. And, he had mentioned, well, for those kind of events and stuff, he says, like, I sometimes don't know, like, it's our manager is sending me a piece of paper saying, this is what you need to promote. These are the things you need to say, and you need to record yourself saying those. So he sits in front of a camera and you do it, and then you send it back to the manager and they take care of it.
Right.
I have been through that myself, where you don't always know. It's hard when there are more pieces of the puzzle. It's hard to.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that part.
Totally, I can see that.
But then it's up to you as artists that are having, let's say, a management that are taking care of everything. Maybe you should check in and see if everything is okay.
Yeah, or like, and the other thing too, I was like, okay, how does that justify the fact that anytime I've been asked to perform that song with them, which was just once, I had to do it for free. Why are you guys getting paid, but I'm not? I'm 50% of the song.
Yes, you are. And without that song, like without that vocal on that track, like listen.
So,
like,
but and
it wouldn't be that classic today.
I was just going to say on that particular topic, just recently happened to me, and I wouldn't say it broke my heart, but it didn't help with my coming back feeling. So I'll do a bleep with this one, but that track was released twice in Armada.
Okay.
And I called him. He was one of the ones that shut me down after being my really good friend. And I contacted him just recently, and he answers the phone. He goes, Antonia, you're not going to believe this. I'm on my way to State of Trance, to the studio, and it's a 20-year anniversary, and I'm going to be playing. Great. And I went, that's great, thinking like an idiot that this was maybe a reconnection point, right? So this is great. And he's there, he's on State of Trance, he's doing, never mentioned my name once. And when I contacted him again to ask him about the track and about coming on the show, he completely stonewalled me.
What?
And I'm sick of people like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's already some of the shit I have to explain to people,
I know.
to men in this industry, because I'm usually the only woman doing what I'm
Right.
doing in my circle. Like, even having conversations, is like, well, if something bad happens to you, like, why don't you report it right away? And it's just
Right.
like, what the fuck planet do you think? Like, what?
Yeah.
Just take a step in a woman's shoes for a second.
Mhm.
Understand what we are force fed by this industry and
Right.
society,
Right.
and try to adjust yourself accordingly. Like, you wouldn't be able to do it, I can guarantee it.
Right.
And then every few months or years, you have like these music publications, or like ASCAP, BMI, whatever, where they do these sort of tallies to find out what percentage of these various industries are women participating in, right? And so, like, there, of course, it's always, there are only 3 to 5% of music producers are
Mhm.
female. Where have they all gone? And I'm like,
Mhm.
they decided to leave to save their mental fucking sanity, because this is
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
It's true.
Amen. Oh
It's
my
true.
God.
It's true. And
I
you've
love
obviously
this
just
stuff.
had a ton of emails in from other people
Yep.
who
Yeah.
have experienced the same thing. I've spoken to hundreds of vocalists
God, I bet.
over the years,
Yeah,
and the
100.
stories would break your
Bailey.
heart.
And they're all probably variations of the same story too,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Which
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, so when I was working on that motherhood in the music industry thing, right? Like, I started to realize, I was like, I think there's a gap in the market. Women at that point, my age, it was like, I would say the 30 plus, 30 to 50, I would say, are not marketed to whatsoever. And I think that that's a real loss, because we're the ones with the money. Like, technically, like, if
I like
our
that.
kids who are buying the music are not buying the music with the money that they make. They're getting the
Right.
money from us. We're the
Yeah.
ones with
Mhm.
if
Right.
there's a disposable income to be had, it's from the adults. So
Correct.
maybe market to us once in a while,
Yep.
And so I decided to do like a little study. And so I put together a little questionnaire. I think I had 79 participants on my website. And I wanted to know what it would take to take somebody from listener to an active, like, actual purchaser / follower of
Right.
music. Like, where's that action step? I need to know, because I ain't making
Yeah.
any money doing this, and I want to know where that line is so that I can find out. That was my attitude at the time. And I found that the people, like, I just assumed there was going to be a whole lot of, like, people, like, just illegally downloading music and stuff. And surprisingly, a lot of the students, the younger ones, were not doing that. But it seemed like the people that were going and buying the most music, if I remember this correctly, like, not just supporting one song, like, from an artist, but going, wow, I'm going to get the whole album, or I'm going to whatever,
Right.
were sort of in that age group that I was kind of predicting. And so one of the heads at SOCAN, saw my little study, and we had a meeting about it. And he said, well, you've sort of hit the nail on the head. We've been discussing this too. He says, but what we realized is, basically, at this time, so this would have been already 8-9 years ago. Things have changed since then. But at that time, he said, the pop music industry really is being decided by 15-year-old girls using Shazam at the time. And so now we've seen
Right.
how social media has really changed that, like, we see, again, like, TikTok and
Mhm.
Instagram and all these reels and stuff. But it was sort of the same as, like, these teenagers would find a song that they liked and that they resonated with, and then that's what would decide what was going on the radio. And we see that, like, now, which is
Right.
really cool. But I did mention, I said, okay, so, like, at what point are you guys going to market yourselves to us? At what point? And
Yeah.
we see when it works,
Yeah.
because when you have, like, I remember when Lizzo had her, her song, she's always had some songs that are sort of more out of the box lyrically and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
people are like, whoa, I resonate. And then boom, it's like a massive hit. And
Right.
Mhm.
I'm just hoping that the industry will put out more of those.
Yeah, definitely hoping for that too. I wanted to go back a little bit to, your article again, because it is, let's say, the elephant in the room.
Sure. A little quick recap is that,
Yeah.
so I was with this group, Surf Matiska and Jaren. We had always worked together, and we had the chance to work with Dash Berlin. Like they wanted to do a collaboration with us. And we were like, oh my God, like this is massive. And so we had to figure out like, what are we like, well, we need to pitch them something. What are we going to do? And so we pitched them a song that Matt and Sean had produced and that I had written. It was called Man on the Run. And it had the lyrics, the Man on the Run, the melodies and everything. And we sent it off. And then we eventually months later heard back and heard like a version of it. And all of us, I think we were all like, oh my God, this is going to be a game changer. Like this is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just added I think another verse or something was all, and then sent it back. And then we didn't hear anything about it. And then finally we heard about it after it was released in promo, because Matt received it in his promo list. And it was listed as Dash Berlin featuring Jaren, Man on the Run. So Matt and Sean didn't get any credit for it. So because it had already gone out on promo, and anybody who had a radio show that was going to play it by then got it early, they're not about to follow up on the 9 bazillion promos they get every week to go, hey, has everything been properly credited? So once it goes out, that's it.
Yeah.
And so they felt really left out for obvious reasons. And I was married to one of them. And you know, when you love someone, yeah. Plus our dynamic was already kind of, you know, here Matt brought somebody in from a totally different industry to sing and dance music. And I was like, what the fuck is this stuff? Like, I don't even know how this works. And all of a sudden I'm getting all of the credit. And I'm the one getting the opportunities to tour and stuff. And he has to sit back and watch his wife take that on.
Yeah.
And he wants to be part of that, but he'll never say like, you shouldn't do it. He was never angry, or I mean, if he was resentful, it was subconsciously.
Right.
You know, but he was always like, really, come on, you got to do this. I'm so proud of you. And it really hurt me to see that like, if he wasn't getting credited, that means part of my soul wasn't getting credited for him.
Right.
I was devastated. And so I complained to my manager and I'm sure to the label, and was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? And eventually they got it fixed, but it was kind of one of those issues where it was like, it was too late. And so now when I talk to people who know Man on the Run, nobody ever knows that Matt and Sean are a part of it. And I find that frustrating as hell, because that was a song that could have easily launched their careers and my career on the live side of things.
Right.
And when they're like, oh yeah, but all people have to do is look at the credits. And then I use the example of like, that's like telling one of Beyonce's songwriters that like, don't worry, you could have a live gig too. As long as somebody reads the credits to find out that you're one of her writers. Like, no, whoever's name is on the front is the person that gets the credit and gets to tour and gets the opportunities.
Right. That's right.
And so we never, ever, ever heard from anybody about, we never received offers to promote anything. Anytime, it was a source of absolute frustration for me for years. And then to the point where I like stopped caring. And then last year, and I had wanted to come forward with this for years, and everybody kept saying, you can't, you absolutely cannot. And then after watching the last ASOT thing and seeing that they're promoting it, like it's their song and that I was just an accessory.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like,
oh my God.
This was our original tune. These were my, you did that. You created that based on my voice. Thank you very much. This was not the other way around. This wasn't just you came up with this and I'm just singing on top of it. You created that based on my voice. So for people who are listening that are like, oh my God, she's really like emotional about it. Yeah, I am. Fuck you, man. Like it's been decades.
I've been through something similar, not with the credit part, but in regards to me writing the song, basically writing the lyrics, recording the lyrics, writing like the melody around it. So it was my song, and another producer came and said, "Hey, can I? Do you have any vocals I could, play around with, as to say?" Yeah. And then when it comes to signing the contract, the label that it was offered to, they wanted to first give me 1%, and I was like, "Excuse me." I wrote this song, and it became like a huge fight online for me to just get 15%. And they were giving me excuses like, well, all the singers and songwriters, they just get 1%. So
that is such bullshit.
For you to get 15 even is just not heard of. I'm like, no. And I was really young. I was new in the industry. I did not know how to read or understand contracts or anything like that.
That was where someone was clearly taking advantage of you.
Oh yeah.
Clearly.
And it blew up also, like you. I'm not gonna say what song it is, but it's one of the bigger ones. And nothing hurts more than to see the royalty statements coming in. And it says like 15%, and then the other person gets like the rest, and that's a lot. And I get like nothing. And I was like, that was my song. I wrote that song. He took that part.
Yeah.
It was 50-50. Like, why am I the feature here?
And see, and then someone will come up to you and say, all you had to do was not sign the contract. I get that all the time from people. Well, it could have been different had you just done this. No, it couldn't have been in that time. In that time, things worked a certain way. I mean, and to Dash Berlin's credit and Armada's credit and Armin's credit, anytime I've worked with these guys on the back end, everything's been credited just fine.
Right.
My complaint is really on the title. But in your case, you were clearly taken advantage of. And this is, to Sean's point, again, the veterans taking advantage of the newer people.
Right.
Yeah. And going back to
Linnea, I've got to say this. Yeah. But you should have been bloody grateful that they let you be on their track.
I'm so grateful.
Exposure, Linnea, exposure.
Oh yeah.
God, you would never have a career had it not been for them giving you that track.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh my God.
Yes.
But I wanted to go back to Acidic Trance. Obviously, it's a fantastic platform. People get heard. It's a lovely way to get your music out. But I just want to go back to that a little bit about you mentioning, like, for example, that only you get invited, for example, because you were like the featured artist, or you were not even invited. It's their song. And I think it keeps happening where, like, just some years ago, like the main song that got like the tune of the year, which is a big compliment in the trance music industry, is that the producer is always invited to the studio, but the singer who actually wrote 50% of that song is not even invited, unless the management, if they have a manager, is working really, really hard to create a great persona of the vocalist, good for her or him.
That's one of those.
You don't have.
I think where you have to already have money already in order to have that. Like if you're getting started, and it's like with any of my first songs with Matt, like at that point I didn't have management. I wouldn't have known what to do, and how do you advocate for yourself?
It astonishes me how they justify that in their heads. Truthfully,
we need to make change. Seriously,
I think we are. I mean, I know that I'm sitting here thinking, and what's going through my head is this. I'm thinking to myself, how dare you treat creators like that?
That's where like we do have people who are fans of the podcast, who actually sent me, one of our fans sent me Jaren's article. That's how I read it, and he was like, oh my God, you guys need to talk about this Love Vocals Nation. You have changed the way I feel about the music industry in a positive way. There's light, there's positivity.
Yeah. This concept of the elephant in the room, the counselor knows that the client's got a point at where they're not dealing with a thing in order to make them move forward and grow. And so you have to be a little bit brave and challenge and talk about the real elephant in the room. And in that moment, the response often is anger, outburst, I can't believe that they've outed the truth.
Yeah.
But what comes from that is growth and change and self-reflection and positivity. And I just think without these moments of true talking your truth, then there's going to be no change, because the elephant in the room is not being addressed.
And also, to your point too, I want to ask, who is going to be finding these things controversial? Is it going to be the people who are listening that are the fans? No, it's going to be the people who have perpetrated this that are going to be
absolutely.
Yes.
And that's how you find out if they're in on that. If it ruffles their feathers,
yep,
you are participating in it.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Amen. Again, amen. I can't say amen how many times, I swear to God.
No, yeah, honestly, anyway, that's that. I want to go back to you and your story. And I want to know what feelings came up for you in all of that process.
in the writing process of it, or
in the process when you realized that Dash Berlin had just completely bypassed your two members of your team.
Well, and here's the thing too, like when I spoke with Seb about this recently, we had agreed, because he was like, listen, I hate the word steal. Like it says that we stole the credit for that. We didn't steal anything. We were not trying to steal. That's like, words matter. And I was like, okay, I will change the word to got. You got credit for it, because it's more complicated, because it's a collaboration. It's not like they can steal their half of the collaboration or whatever. So I understand, but they got credit for it. I mean, there are so many emotions. I was able to forget about it for a long time and not let it bother me. I mean, I was able to suppress everything for a really long time and cope with it. When music was never financially great in my case, because I didn't do the live thing very much. So I lived basically at the poverty line or below for most of my musical career. And so I had to make a decision to leave that. And it was a really tough one. And it was my divorce that forced that decision for me. And in retrospect, it's like, oh, thank God, because it was really tough to live that. I think where a lot of my anger came from was not knowing when the next paycheck was going to come, and then watching these guys touring and hearing how much money they're making per show, kind of thing. And I know that they're playing my song, and also I know my song is getting played everywhere, and how come I'm not, like people say, but you got royalties. Yeah, when you calculate the amount of money that you get from a song, you need to divide it by the number of days in the year and whatever, and hours and stuff. It's like, most of the stuff that I ever did was far less than a minimum wage job, and it would be viable if I had several hits of that level, and I just didn't have that. Trance is a more niche market than that. And also with the way streaming is going, there's I don't know if you guys saw in the news that Spotify just demonetized all the songs that have less than 1,000 plays. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of pain. And to Antonia, like what you said about not being able to listen to music, that was my case for a long, long time. I was just in a rage about it. But it wasn't just towards dance, though. A lot of it also because I went on to work as a songwriter and a voice coach for Canadian talents, like radio Canadian pop singers and things like that. And some of the things that happened to some of these young girls is so vile, and I can't believe that some of these executives are still in power. And the reason they are is because these girls feel they cannot come forward to complain about what happened to them. Yeah, exactly. They're going to lose their career. And so all of that just fed into this whole thing of like, man, if I want to stand up for what I believe in, then I don't want to associate with this. So it cut off all my creative everything to do with songwriting. And to the point that now when people ask me to songwrite, I'm like, yeah,
That's
guys,
how I feel too.
I
My
think
goodness.
I'm a shitty songwriter now because now I don't want to talk about this stuff. And like, especially dance music, a lot of producers are like, it's like this airy feeling. We want it to be like really ooh and ah. And I'm like, I don't feel like ooh and ah. I feel like fuck everyone.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I want to talk about the dark stuff now.
Yeah. but psychologically, what that tells me is that you haven't yet fully had the chance to get it all out. You know that
not at all.
You've only just started to kind of.
I've only just started. I have actually releasing this article was the beginning of that for me. You know what happened? I cried for 24 hours after my first phone call with Seb, and I couldn't understand why. Like, my boyfriend came over, like my ex-husband, but they both saw me, and I was just like crying, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Everything's fine. It's just I think it's all this anger just trapped inside my body, and it's coming out." Over and it was like it was not logical. It was just everything that was stored in my body for so long was like, okay, this is it was really cathartic. After that, I think after that week, I cried so much.
Right.
And I had a mental breakdown that weekend, and my poor boyfriend, oh my God, God bless his heart, man. He was like, why are you doing this to yourself? You did everything that you could. Your experience is your experience. Nobody can take that away from you. You need to look, you have me, you have your family. We're all here. We love you. Take a deep breath. Everything is going to be okay. Everything you need is here. It's not out there. It's here. And I broke, and I was able to release it. So I've been doing a lot better since, but I would not recommend. I mean, I know why people don't want to come forward, because this is the shit that happens. We have to deal with all the emotions that happen afterwards. And I wasn't ready. If somebody was like, by the way, you're going to be really unproductive for 2 weeks after, you're just going to be crying all the time, I would have been like, nope, thanks.
Because what you did was you addressed the elephant in the room, and that always creates an outburst of either anger, emotion, whatever. But I'll tell you this, that when we, and again, sorry, I know this is not a psychology course, but
I love psychology. I eat it up all the time. I have a therapist, the whole thing.
Excellent, me too. But when we hold on, this is for all you producers, creators out there who have and know deep down in your heart that you have made some choices that have caused other creators hurt in the industry. This is what happens. They shut their mouth because they don't want to lose their career. Where do those emotions go, folks? I'll tell you where they go: internally. And I'll tell you what happens. Emotions have to go somewhere if they're getting stuffed. And what they do is they come out as depression, trauma,
anxiety,
and sometimes PTSD, anxiety. So have a moment of self-reflection before you make the choices to stitch somebody, to give them a bad deal, and remember that cause and effect. And that the moment that you start that process, you're starting the cause.
And the thing is,
take accountability.
There will be people who just don't care, that just want to use your voice just to have a hit, and you made Man on the Run, we want you to do the same, and they take your voice and run away with it. Now I'm just making an example. And then they will never talk to you again, as we brought this up many times on this show. But listen, we are all connected here.
We are.
I'm sitting here with Jaren, we're talking, right? We have a huge connection of people. Right.
Massive network.
We talk together.
And that's the thing.
We don't want to work with people like that.
No.
So you will get blacklisted. I swear to God, you will get blacklisted.
I love it. Yeah,
absolutely.
You will get blacklisted.
Absolutely.
We talk, all right? So don't do this to people.
When I was starting off in my music career, I was told, one of the reasons I was told to shut up about my feelings, that they're like, just so you know, the labels talk. They all talk amongst themselves. And they all talk
That's
about
awesome.
the artists that they have, the artists, and they blacklist their artists and stuff like that.
Sure.
So when you're a singer and you don't have that group, because obviously, like,
Yeah.
had been able to have that kind of a group thing too, I think, I mean, I wonder how that would have changed things
You know,
sometimes.
maybe it wouldn't have, because maybe it wouldn't
Yeah.
have been the right time, Jaren.
It
Mhm.
wouldn't have, actually, because the idea of positive disintegration, and I really resonated with that, because I thought, in my case, the only way that I could grow was to just completely break down and start anew. And I rested on my laurels at the height of my career in dance music, for sure, because at one point the demand for writing top lines was so high, and I got annoyed, because I felt like labels were just like taking anything just to have my name on it. And so I was like, okay, I'm
Yep.
going to try actively to just, I'm going to spend 3 minutes writing a song. It's just going to be train of thought. It's going to be really stupid. And I'm probably going to think that it's crap. And I'm just going to see if they release it. And they would.
I kind of
But see, it's amazing. Like, I would love to hear with other, I mean, I've talked with a lot of, a lot of the singers that I worked with in the past, and we talked about things like, oh my God, one of the tours that I was on, we found out that the guy that was on tour with us was making twice what we were making. And we were just like, what the fuck, dude? I
Yeah.
remember I went on tour with a particular DJ who spent more on a t-shirt after our lunch than what he was willing to pay me to go travel across the world to perform with him.
I hate people
Wow.
like that. I hate people like that.
Yeah. And but again, I was young, and it was like, okay, but you need the exposure. And it's like, okay, yes, okay, I need the exposure. I need the exposure.
Mhm.
And we fall into that. So there's something
How
that comes with
long do you need the
age.
exposure?
Wait,
I
it's
think
soft.
I think
I love
the
that.
music
How
industry.
long do you have to do it to?
Yeah,
to-
like I think the electronic music industry is definitely different compared to other genres. And I heard
Oh yeah.
other big artists that moved from like electronic music to become like one of the biggest pop stars out there
Mhm.
today. And she also mentioned, she's been working with David Guetta and things like that. She said like the electronic music scene, oh my God, you will never they will never put you as let's say a main artist, or they will always suppress you,
Yeah.
put you to
Featuring.
decide, so they can decide what the value is. So you need them and not them needing you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We need to change the mindset. We don't need record labels anymore. We
Yeah.
don't. We can.
Yeah.
We could. I'm not the big ones anyway. We really don't. It's the fans that we need to connect with, and we can do that these days.
Well, that's exactly what you're saying too, because I don't know about you, but I feel like most of the time when I was working with producers, I noticed producers produce often not for the fans. They're producing for other producers to show off their skills and like, check out this cool thing. It's like a bit of a dick measuring contest, I find. And
Yes.
oftentimes I feel like the audience gets completely lost. They're like not even a part of the equation. It's like, I'm going to create this. It's so cool. I'm going to show it off to all my friends. It's going to be a hit. And it's going to be like, and let's focus on the business and blah, blah, blah.
Ego.
Wait, yeah. But I've been trapped in that too. I know why it happens, but that's the nice thing about how the music industry has changed. And like you said, if you are able to connect with the fans with something really, really, and they'll know when it's really authentic, then, what do we need? What we should be focusing really on, I think, our messages as songwriters, what it is. My feeling is always whatever speaks to your heart the closest, whatever is. Like, for me, my biggest successful songs are usually the ones that mean the most to me when I have written them. They're the ones where I've been my most authentic self when I've written them.
Right.
Mhm.
I didn't have to try to do it. It just came.
Yeah.
And people resonated with that because I think they felt like that was something that was authentic to them. And so now when people write me online, like, okay, how do I become a songwriter? How do I do this? I'm just like, do what pleases you authentically. If it pleases you and you want to share it with the public, fine, start there. Because writing what you think is going to be the next hit. I mean, I worked in pop music. Everything was about, okay, but it's first, okay, so the radio edit, first it was 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, now it's 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Now it's 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Okay, so that means we have to template the song like this. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to write music that way. I don't want to write music that way. I just want to write from the heart if I'm going to do it. But now I'm
Yeah.
dangerously close to that I don't give a shit anymore line where I could just
I passed that
That's
line
the
a
best
long
kind of
time
line,
ago.
I think, to pass, because then
I
you're
really
free
have.
to do whatever
Yeah.
you want to do.
Yeah.
This is a phrase I've been hearing out of a lot of artists who have been up there recently. They say, "I'm ready to talk now." I think not that they've come to me to do the talking, but
Right.
just chatting. I'm ready to talk now. I think I've got to a stage in my career where I don't give a fuck anymore.
Oh yes. Yes.
And I don't need them
Yeah.
anymore.
Yep.
And now and I'll tell you, there's going to be a ton of skeletons coming out of the closet.
That's
very
what
soon.
I'm really curious about that. I'm really curious about
There's
that.
a ton of-
Not because I
there's
want to
gonna-
see anybody fall, but I just want to know that
No.
I'm not alone in my experience. You know?
Yeah, but also, you have no idea. You sharing this, all of what you did the other day, you would have given others permission
Yes.
to feel, to be validated, much like you're feeling now. And all Linnea and I ever want to do with this, genuinely, we know we probably won't make a ton of money. We'd like to make an income out of the platform we've got, but our mission is it's like so like a passion.
Yeah.
And we really want to educate people, make sure that they never get burned the way that at times we've been burned and others.
Yeah. I want to go to that actually, because often we, like, you don't speak up until you're ready, or you got burned already. The thing is, like, you don't really pay attention to your contracts, because there's nowhere to learn about the contracts anywhere. So, you have to learn it yourself, and like yourself,
a lot of trial and
Jaren,
error.
Like you said, like you get a bunch of text and you're like, I'm not going to read that. So people just sign anything that comes because they're so eager to get their music out. And they're like,
that
oh
is
my God,
the number
record
one
label wants.
danger. That
Yeah.
is absolutely the number one danger. I can't tell
That's
you
the
how
number
many
one
people
danger.
completely lost their careers, like pop stars that I know that lost their careers entirely because they signed something they didn't know, and then they were held, they were tied up for 10 years, unable to write for somebody else or whatever. And this is where I think I'm so blessed, because I had Stuart was our manager, and he took care of all that stuff, and he made sure, he was always like, you make sure, like, no work for hires. You're going to get, like, especially when it came to top lines, it was like, you're 50% of the song, you get 50%. That's it.
Yeah.
A man after my own heart.
Yeah. No, and I look back and I think, I mean, we had our fair share of shit that we did that was stupid. Like, we lost a couple of songs entirely that we wrote that we no longer have rights to. Luckily, they didn't get like super duper 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 huge, but
Yeah.
And ironically, it's the same label that's still reaching out to Matt and going, hey, can we work together? And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So my point is, with this is that often we as artists in the music industry, we don't educate ourselves, and there's nowhere really to get help, because maybe you're the only one in your home that is doing music, and so you can't go to your parents and say like, hey, what does this mean, because they don't understand it either. So it's a jungle out there, and people only start to care about what they're signing when they have been burned. So that's the bad part of it, because we don't want you to get burned. Like, we are having this conversation with you, Jaren, today to spread awareness, to hear stories. Unfortunately, like, there's so many stories, as if you're a follower of this podcast, that you hear over and over again, that people are getting, unfortunately, screwed over in the music industry. We want to prevent that. That is what we do. That's the main core passion of Love Vocals. And we have built that platform. Is ready to launch in any moment now, and it's going to change, hopefully, the music industry. People will start to figure out that there's a place for you to get help with understanding your contract. So I just wanted to bring that out, that don't be like us. don't sign a contract just because you're excited. I see this happen every time.
Yep.
A lot with music producers, because they're so eager. I just want to be the biggest producer and DJ out there, so I'm just signing anything because the label is really respected in the music industry, and if my name is on there, well, I'm gonna grow and I'm gonna be the next Armin or whatever.
Which is one of the biggest lies.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, they can shelve you at any moment.
Yeah.
We were shelved. We were shelved.
Yeah,
we were let go of Armada after our album. So
yeah.
Well, with you all need a good shelving sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Put things in perspective. Actually, I want to ask though about that because another thing that's keeping singers from learning about their rights and really understanding what's in their contract is the cost of entertainment lawyers. Because if you want to go to an established, it's going to cost more for you to have that contract looked over than what you're going to make on the song 99 times out of 100. So in this particular niche industry. So that's really cool. So how does that work for you guys then? I want you guys to inform me and remind me as the public. Do you guys have standard kind of contract things, or you have?
Yeah. So
awesome.
So what we've done is, our kind of ethos is this: start from the ground up. Mm-hmm. So if you're working with somebody and you're having a collaboration at creation level, that's where everyone should have a collaboration contract. We've actually created one. It's a legal contract, and you can actually have that with anything to do with the platform. If people are buying your stuff from the marketplace, it's automatically part of the transaction. Amazing. And it is all automatically signed. If you need to come to us to get any support with just as reading, we're not lawyers, just so you know that, but we're telling you that we'll read over your contracts, we'll give you some pointers, and if we feel you need to go and
somebody bigger,
we are going to have resources, trusted and aligned resources for people to go to. And of course, we always say, please get your stuff looked over by a lawyer, because but as you've said, and it's the truth, not everybody can afford to do that. So we're giving that kind of resource there. We're also setting up services that there'll be people there who can actually go in and negotiate for you. If you so want it, and there's always smaller fees attached to these things, but they're affordable. And the great thing about this website, the community is all going to be very much, pros are all going to be vetted, just so you know that. And also there's going to be open to creators in the general public. And so we're creating resources, services, an end-to-end solution genuinely for the industry, where they can come, every service is there, it's all aligned, vetted, organized by us. And you can always talk to us personally. So it's not just a website where, And
I think it's genius that you have the option to have somebody negotiate on your behalf, because that's something that absolutely terrifies. I'm at the point now where I can say, no, this is what I want, because I'm dangerously close to that line of not caring anymore. But if I really cared and I was really like, oh my God, like this, and you're too into it, I think it provides a nice break, and then the artist can focus on their art and still feel
yes, exactly. That's the main point behind this, because sometimes you work with different kind of producers, bigger, small ones, but there's sometimes producers that do have their management, and then they can tell you anything for you to sign something, and you're like, that's
always you need somebody on your behalf all the time. You don't trust anybody.
But here's the bit that I'm really big on, and that is, even if somebody went, we're going to pay to get this negotiated, I would also always sit down with them and say, hey, let me explain what we did here and why we did it. And obviously this is what we're proposing before you even get into a negotiation situation, and explain it to the artist so they walk away educated from that moment. It's not just like a blank screen. And we're, so anyway, it's an end-to-end solution. because
we're gonna have workshops on there.
There's workshops, everything. We've got
songwriters.
some great people on there, and this is very important. This is not a directory. This is nothing to do. It's a team, and we're all. It's about like-minded people coming together to say fuck you, and fuck you. We're doing our own thing, and don't come over here. And you can go and criticize us all you want, because guess what? The only people that matter here, wait for it, are the creators themselves.
Right.
And the fans.
Yep. Oh man, I mean that's it, because if you don't, if people aren't listening and paying for your music, you don't exist. That's it.
Yeah,
exactly. And all now labels are, in my opinion, are middlemen.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
And what this platform will do is actually say, we're going to teach you to be your own business, and we're going to give you the tools to do it, and we're going to give you the support to do it, and we're going to love you through the shit times, and we're going to praise you and celebrate you through the great times. And I know that sounds like a Disney moment, because that's how my brain works, but I believe it and I mean it. So that's it.
I think that's so powerful. I mean, really, like, especially the like, okay, a little brief departure, but I work now primarily as a voice artist, doing commercials and stuff online.
inside. I'm begging you, daring you to change your mind. I know you said you tried, but again I'm begging you, baby, change your mind. I'm begging you. Take a look inside. I'm begging you, daring you to change your mind. I know you said you tried, but again I'm begging you, baby, change your mind. I'm begging you. take it, turn it around. Give me a sound. I'll take it, turn it around, and make it something you'll drown in, baby. Give me a sound. I'll take it, turn it around, and make it something you'll drown in, baby. Give me a sound. I'll take it, turn it around, and make it something you'll drown in, baby. Give me a sound. Rejection's like an ice cold bath, but the water's feeling good this time. And I hate that I misread you, boy, but I can't resist no crossing signs. And you're an open invitation to a heartache, a painful kind of good. I should just leave alone, but it's too late. Well, you never said that I'm your baby. You never said that I'm the one. You never said you'd try, or that you'd take me, or you'd leave me. You just said goodbye. You said goodbye. I'm right back where I started out. Not a lot to show, just memories, but I took what I could get from you. Now I'm off to fill the void. You see, I got a habit I can't break, so it does all the breaking, and a heart that's slow to heal, 'cause I fall for the ones who are taken. You never said I was the one. just kept walking, baby. I couldn't have stopped you if I tried. I was such a fool to think it might have led to something fulfilling, baby. And had you been willing, maybe I wouldn't have these thoughts running through my head. Well, you never said that I'm wrong, baby. You never It's so